Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oxnard Live. I hope everyone had a safe and healthy Thanksgiving week. Um, I'm your host, Daniel Chavez Jr. Before we get started, I just wanted to take this brief moment and to recognize former councilman Jonathan Sharkey from the city of Port Hueneme. Unfortunately, passed away 2 days after battling health issues. Um, According to his wife, he went peacefully in their home in Port Hueneme after serving over 20 years on the Port Hueneme City Council. December 3rd was recognized and forevermore would be recognized as Jonathan Sharkey Day. So today we take that brief moment to recognize him and all of his contributions to the city of Port Hueneme and the residents throughout Ventura County. Joining us today during the most worst pandemics that our country has ever gone through, businesses suffering, residents across the nation suffering. But tonight we're going to be speaking with the CEO and president of the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce on how the chamber's role in dealing with businesses, how it's supporting those businesses during this pandemic, and what are the plans for the future. Joining me tonight is CEO and President Nancy Lindholm. Miss Lindholm.
Hi, Daniel. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Nancy, for joining me and just really trying to share what the role of the chamber is and how it's tackling this pandemic that has been going on for 7, 8 months now. I'm pretty sure your office is getting inundated with a lot of calls from businesses trying to figure out how to deal with this pandemic.
Well, first of all, I wish we could tackle it. We would love to do that for a lot of reasons. Um, it has been the most challenging year that I've experienced. I've been with the chamber since early 2004, so went through the Great Recession, and we lost a lot of businesses from our community during that period of time. But this is unbelievably worse. So as far as the chamber's role, our immediate priority when the pandemic started in March was to be a source of information for businesses, to make sure that we were filtering some of the information that was coming from the federal government, state, and of course the county, who is implementing a lot of the orders that are coming down from the state, but to make sure that that got out to the business community. That was our first priority. We've had, just like every other business, we've done a lot of pivoting this year to change how we reach out to people, what kind of programming we deliver. Our highest priority has always been to be the voice of business and to be an advocate. So once we got through like the immediate, this is what you need to comply with, then we really focused on, okay, how can we work with, especially county government, to get some of our businesses open that were immediately on shutdown. So that was kind of the beginning.
So how was that? Because in the beginning, the rules were constantly changing. Nobody really had a handle on what those rules were, what those guidelines look like. The state would give their own, the county would give their own. Some cities were actually giving their own also. How did that work out with the chamber trying to kind of centralize that for our city, in particular, the city of Oxnard?
Well, and they still are changing. As you know, the governor today came out with his new orders of stay-at-home orders that will click in if 15% or less of the hospital ICU beds are available. So they still are changing, and we really try to focus on a couple of areas. As far as businesses being able to open, operate, restaurants that could serve outside, inside, pickup, delivery, all those things, we really relied on direction from the county at that point in time. However, at the same time, this is when the CARES Act was going through the federal government. So we had a lot of work to do, lobbying our elected officials and working very closely with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce to make sure that businesses were going to get some relief, as were our residents as far as unemployment compensation, so that they had money to keep the economy going, to try to save some of these small businesses. So we had a lot of work to do with them as well. We're still working on, obviously, I'm not sure if it's still called the HEROES Act, but the next phase of stimulus with the pandemic that seems to start, it's moving again in Congress. It was stalled for a couple of months due to the election. So we're still working on that and what's going to be included. And the Paycheck Protection Program, is there going to be more money to fund that? There's another deadline for a lot of unemployment compensation benefits to run out just right after Christmas. We don't want to see that happen because, again, a lot of the small businesses in our community are depending upon people to have money to spend.
Now, is it safe to say that the chamber's role also not only distributing information, but trying to provide some guidance to their members as to how they can kind of stay open and what steps they need to take to be able to kind of bounce back after this? Because again, for a good chunk of the year, businesses were, a lot of them were just shut down altogether. Um, what steps did the chamber take in that?
Well, we have such a variety of businesses, types of businesses. We have private employers that have 2,000 employees. We have quite a few members that have no employees, or maybe 2 or 3 employees. So they all have different needs. We got a lot of inquiries early on from private schools, from some in the personal services, salons, other personal services industries or businesses. And all we could really do at that point is kind of quote what we were getting from the county. However, again, is how to manage the stress that all of them are under, the financial stress. We work very closely with the Economic Development Collaborative as well. They have a lot of programs in addition to the Small Business Administration disaster funding or the Paycheck Protection. They do have some private funding sources as well. Not only that, but they have a lot of consultants that they provide for free. So when we had a business that was really upside down about, I can't bring my people back, I can't open, the landlord is on my back about my rent, we would really refer a lot of them to the EDC to work one-on-one with their consultants.
That's awesome. I kind of want to just back up just a little bit because you made mention that you first came part of the chamber back in 2004. So you went through the recession in 2008. But going back a little bit further, what landed you to be part of the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce?
Well, it's kind of interesting. My background is I have an accounting degree, which is helpful in all businesses. But I primarily have been a business owner for many years. I own a variety of businesses and was very involved with the Ventura Chamber of Commerce and the Camarillo Chamber. I was the chair of the board there probably almost 20 years ago. And just I had a lot of experience being a board member and working with chambers. And there were some changes in Oxnard. I was not really that familiar with the Oxnard Chamber. There were some changes, and somebody approached me and said, would you like to see if you can change this organization a bit for us and move it forward more as a business advocacy organization? And I thought, well, certainly I can do that, and that'll be a couple year assignments. And almost 17 years later, here I am, or 16 years later, here I am. So I think it was the business background. I personally had some issues with a business that I owned. Had some permitting issues that a city and government, even the California Coastal Commission, wanted to revoke the operating permit that we had. And so I kind of went through the ringer as how you can really get beat up if you don't have a lot of help on your side. So I wanted to provide that help to other businesses.
Now, I read on the website, this might have been old because the design of the website looked like it might have been an earlier version of it, but it said that under your leadership, it actually grew the membership, the number of businesses that were part of the chamber, and that it became more influential in politics. Um, how, so you were brought in to kind of change this organization, and you were able to increase the number of members and then to be a really big, important say in local government. What were those steps like?
Um, I- well, it was growing the membership. Obviously, is a challenging thing, and we went up to uh, almost 800 members. I want to know it was about 750 members, I think, at one point in time. And then we went way down below 500 during the recession, back up over 500, and we're probably going to be slipping down again after, with this situation that we're in. So having resources to provide programs and be an advocate is really important because you have to pay people to work. Um, uh, the political issue has just come about by our goal is to make sure that business-friendly candidates are elected to local government, that they understand the challenges that businesses have, and they understand also that these businesses are providing jobs to our residents. So I've always looked at the issue of quality of life, and quality of life starts with a good job. I mean, if you don't have a good job and decent income, you're the quality of your life is not so good. So we want all of our residents to have a great quality of life, and we think that makes the community better overall. So again, we're very interested in seeking out candidates that are business friendly to run for local office. We also kind of take our priority list up to county and state government as well, and let our elected officials know where we stand on a number of issues.
Now, you also offer a program, the Oxnard Leadership Academy. I was a participant of that. I enjoyed it. It's a 10-month program that really allows people to dive into the business community. And it's on multiple levels, from public safety, ag, um, education. Tell me, how did that come about, and how has this year been impacted by COVID?
Okay, well, the Oxnard Leadership Program is obviously one of my favorites as well. We started it, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, and it basically it was a twofold process. We found out that a lot of people that are interested in local government or just being community activists um, weren't really familiar with the background on things. As you know, since you went through the program, we have a day on government, which explains to the participants. We start at the county, and if we can have a rep from our state assembly there, we will have that. But we start at the county and explain, what the county covers as far as unincorporated areas and what kind of services they also provide to the entire county, including the incorporated cities. We moved down to the city government and have the mayor and any other elected officials speak with a group. We have the city manager speak as well, maybe community development director about projects that are happening in the city. But it gives everybody just a background on, it reminds you of all those civic classes that you took, and it gives you firsthand, how your city operates. And of course, one of the sessions that I'm sure everyone remembers is we do a tour of the water recycling plant in Oxnard. And right next to that, of course, is the wastewater plant, which is not the most fun place in the world to visit, but it gives you a very eye-opening experience as to what the city has to deal with and how they're trying to keep this archaic plant operating for the benefit of the residents here. So there's all kinds of different topics that we cover, the history day, agriculture and natural resources, energy. It really gives the participants a good background of what it takes to make a community, even more so than a city, a community. So you asked also about how's it been impacted. Unfortunately, we've put the program in 2020 on hold. The participants that started, they were able to do the classes in January and February. We thought we were just going to be on a brief pause, but as we all know now, that's not the case. But we did survey the participants, and the general consensus was that they didn't want to try it to do it virtually, that they thought the benefit of the in-person networking was so valuable with their cohort that we have put it on hold. We're hoping that we can start it up in the first quarter of 2021, but that might have to be virtual too at that point in time. So, but
Yeah, I agree with them that it's so important to be in that in person. I was one, I believe there was like 12 of us or maybe 13 of us. And those are friendships that I continue to have to this day. And I was, last year's class, 2019, but it was just a wealth of information that I was completely unaware of. I thought I knew everything about Oxnard, but that was a real eye opener that I didn't know everything about Oxnard. And, that's things that can be taken elsewhere also, learning all that knowledge. So it was very beneficial. I'm sure you're in constant contact with other chambers across Ventura County, as well as the region and the state. How are they dealing with this also? Is Oxnard in a better shape than other chambers, or are we all kind of level playing field at this time?
I think there's probably a variety of levels of what can I say here, of how chambers are doing. It's interesting that you asked that question because I exchanged emails with a colleague of mine that runs the Irvine Chamber of Commerce in Orange County the other day. And we were talking about the upcoming order from the governor, the stay-at-home order. And he made a comment that said, I just wonder how much longer our industry can survive this pandemic. Because we're just like any other small business. I think we're probably kind of in the middle of the road as far as other chambers. There have been a lot of chambers of commerce throughout the United States that have already closed their doors and just gone out of business. Businesses, because we cater mostly to small businesses, they cannot afford to pay their membership fees that are voluntary. And without any operating funds, that's difficult for a lot of them to continue to operate. We, unfortunately, we had to take immediate action in March, and we had to lay off almost half of our staff. So those of us that are left are doing a lot of double duty, but we're glad that we're still operating. Um, our board of directors really has given us a lot of assistance as far as direction on seeking some disaster funding to help us along the way, and just other direction on how to cut expenses and things like that. So I'm sure every other chamber is doing about the same thing. Some of them, the larger ones, it just depends on reserves and management, is how they're going to do, because sometimes the bigger they are, the harder they fall. We're kind of considered a medium-sized, small to medium-sized chamber, so we have a little bit more flexibility. But I I would have to say that if this goes on another full year, it's going to be really, really difficult to keep the doors open.
Now, I just want to make a quick comment because of what you said, to our viewers, that clearly, as you hear, that the chamber is not a government agency. It
Oh
is
no.
a private, it's a business. It has its board of directors and it has operating costs and employees just like every other business. It just acts as the umbrella of advocacy for businesses in the community. So I just wanted to make that quick comment,
Thank
so
you.
that people don't think that the chamber is a government agency. It's a business.
No.
Um, I want to ask about, because your last comment of saying that if this goes on for another full year, it's closing up. And you made mention that businesses, other chambers across the nation have already started closing up because they just can't afford to stay open anymore. How does that look for our businesses in the city of Oxnard if they lose this huge advocacy group that has already displayed of really speaking up for businesses in the local and county levels when it comes to the elected officials?
I think it's going to make their ability to operate more difficult, because when things come up like large fee increases from the city, or if there are proposed ordinances that would tie the hands of business to be able to do what they do, it, it's going to be a problem. We have had, I can't even tell you how many issues that just since I've been there, that we have fought and really prevailed for the business community. And a lot of times they don't think about those things, but occasionally when something comes by, it's like, how did this happen? Well, we fought it. We didn't prevail on that one, but here's our winning scorecard over here. So I think the world without the local chamber is going to make the small businesses, especially, a little bit more defenseless, as far as regulations, costs, other things.
So since you've been with the chamber since 2004 and then you went through the recession in 2008, how long did it take for the chamber to really kind of bounce back to be able to operate at a really strong level?
I would say 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
Uh, the Great Recession really hit the real estate market, obviously, in the second half or last quarter of 2008. We didn't really feel the effects of it until 2009. But in 2009, we lost 20% of our members. So if you take 20% of your revenue away immediately, that's a difficult thing to deal with. And since we lost 25 or 20% of our members, it took probably 3 to 4 years to regain a portion of those, and we never ever went back up as high as we were as far as number of members that we had pre-recession. We obviously, Oxnard was a very pro-growth city. There were a lot of residential units being built. We were in the middle of the construction of River Park, and other projects being proposed. And when the real estate market crashed, of course, a lot of those developers went out of business, and a lot of the projects just went by the wayside.
So how does it look now? again, we've been in this pandemic for 7, 8 months. How does the membership suffer for the Oxnard Chamber?
My immediate thoughts on what was going to happen, looking back in March and April, I thought, this is going to be a lot more painful for a shorter period of time. I really thought that we would be back open in June, July, August. I think a lot of people did. Obviously, that's not the case, and this prolonged uh, shutdown or slowdown or whatever it is that's your particular business is in, it gets more difficult every day. We're at this point like in time that we have not lost even 10% of our members. I don't know how that's going to do going forward, but I think the pain is much deeper in the pandemic, generally speaking, for most businesses than it was for the Great Recession. And it's like I said earlier, I don't know of too many small businesses, especially those that are involved in the service industry, that could survive another full year. It's too difficult. And I'm sure we're going to see in this next shutdown, you can imagine that our restaurants, the amount of business that they normally do during the holiday season when people are out shopping and they don't have time to cook at home, and so they're stopping and having dinner in restaurants or meeting friends and exchanging gifts and things like that, and having lunch with your friends you haven't seen but once a year. It's not going to happen this year. The impact to those businesses is just really painful.
Now, what was the feelings from the chamber and other businesses when we left the purple tier? We got a little bit less restrictive. We were able to kind of open up a little bit more businesses like gyms that were one of those that were closed. And then to regress back to purple, what were the feelings from the chamber and other businesses that you were in communication with?
A few of them are still rolling with the punches, and we're certainly glad to hear that. There are other ones, and when you talk about gyms, we have a brand new Gold's Gym, a huge gym in northern Oxnard, that took over the old Food for Less building, and they barely got their doors open when this whole thing happened. I just can't imagine the impact that it's hitting a new business. And we have another gym that's going in the area at the Esplanade as well, and they have not gotten their doors open. So some of these, they must have great financial reserves or backing to keep going, because it's very, very difficult. I think some of the restaurants and other than when they decided they could have limited indoor dining, and it was about the time of the seasons changing, so it was cooler in the evenings, so people could sit inside for a dinner meal. I think that was very welcome news. Now changing back to absolutely no indoor or outdoor for the new stay-at-home order, assuming it is going to be implemented in our area here. That's going to be pretty devastating.
Now, let me ask you, because either I missed it or I didn't hear it. Ventura County hasn't implemented no outdoor dining, but LA County just recently said that there is zero outdoor dining. They continue with the no indoor dining. As a chamber, as a business, you hearing those type of restrictions around this time, like you just mentioned, it's a holiday season. People are trying to get a meal, they're visiting family from out of state. What goes through your mind as a business to hear those type of restrictions placed?
Well, I think we're probably going to see a lot of restaurants just close down. I'm not saying close and go out of business. I'm saying that it's in the governor's new order. if we are in that 15 or less percent availability of ICU rooms or beds, there is no indoor or outdoor dining at all. It's only takeout, delivery. Uh, um, I don't think a lot of restaurants, it will be financially feasible for them to bring in their staff, the kitchen staff, and the order takers and whatnot, the service staff. I don't think it'll be worth it for them to do that. So I think they will probably close. And again, I'm not saying going out of business. Some of them may go out of business, but they keep in mind they still have to pay rent. So that's going to be an ongoing issue. And for those that can furlough their employees and continue to pay them, bless them. We hope that if that's not the case, that there are some extended unemployment benefits available, again, to keep the economy running. But again, the governor's order came out today, so it's still being analyzed. He has divided the state into 5 different areas. We are grouped with not only San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara County, but also all of LA and Southern California, Riverside, San Diego, you name it. So we are in one group together. And if that group collectively has that 15% or less of ICU beds available, we are in that stay-at-home order, which means restaurants, there's no indoor, outdoor dining. Retail can be open for 20% of its occupancy, but everything else that we've had that's partially open pretty much is closed again. And it's going to be in effect for a minimum of 3 weeks. And I'm not sure that following Thanksgiving, we're not going to have another surge and reach that. So again, we're still trying to analyze the details of the order, but it's not looking good.
Now, I don't want to say the word fair because, in life, nothing's actually fair. But as a business, do you think it's appropriate to group our county, which is relatively small compared to LA, Santa Barbara, and everyone else? Do you think that's appropriate to group our, county with these other counties that are relatively large? LA is the largest city with over 4 million people, and that's just the city. That's not even the county. Do you think it's appropriate the way that the governor, chopped up the state this way?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If he was going to group counties together, we should be in a Central Coast region. Absolutely not. We are so different than LA, and even population-wise. I mean, we're less than 1 million people, so we're almost a rural county. So no, we should not be grouped in with them.
Now, because of the, like you mentioned, the governor's order is still being analyzed on all fronts. The county's reviewing it, the cities, I'm sure the chamber is also. But what is the state's chamber doing to try to, put some, I guess the best word of advice towards the governor, like, hey, look, if you continue to do these harsh restrictions, because that's ultimately what it is these really harsh restrictions, businesses are going away, and who knows how long it's going to take to get them back.
Right. Certainly the California Chamber of Commerce is working very closely with the governor, and the CEO of the Cal Chamber, Alan Zarenberg, sits on the governor's COVID task force. So they are certainly in close communication. Again, they're advocating for not shutting down everything as it is. It's very difficult to say when you have a surge in cases that we don't want to shut down. But if we can find the most plausible way to assure that people social distance, that they're practicing good hygiene and the mask wearing and everything else. I think that's probably the biggest key to advocate for. Again, it's the numbers are the data is saying that a lot of these case growth is really due to um, family gatherings, individuals gatherings. People aren't going to the grocery store and getting COVID. The ones that are going to work are not getting COVID because the employment area has been set up to prevent and the social distancing and everything. So I know that they are working closely with the governor. We also signed on to a letter that was sent from the California Chamber to our congressional delegation and our senators. Just went out today, I believe, about trying to get the next package of relief forward. It just can't stall any longer because, as I said before, a lot of these businesses are holding on by a thread and really need some more assistance.
Now, how has it been during this pandemic of working with the city of Oxnard, um, as far as like permitting fees and other types of fees and services that the city provides to businesses? Have they been understanding, or has it just been really like, no, you need to pay this before you can move to the next step?
Well, I know that the city has passed an ordinance as far as rent, as far as a landlord tenant issues. They followed with the state and the county as far as you can't evict anyone during this point in time, and if there are issues with rent, those need to be kind of brought forward. At least you need to inform your landlord, I can't pay my rent. So the city's been involved in some of those things, which has been very helpful. They continue to try to operate as normal as possible. I know that the planning department is still moving a lot of things forward. We have some huge projects that are going on in Oxnard that continue to be underway. The wagon wheel redevelopment, that's all moving forward. And even though we had a little stumble with the cannabis retail cannabis permitting issue, the city has really stepped forward and said we are going to move this forward at light speed to get this done and get those businesses open. So as far as waiving fees, I'm not familiar with any issues like that. I know that they are continuing to pass on information about tax deferral programs and other things similar to what I was talking about, the programs that the EDC is involved with, but things like the deferral of sales tax revenue payments or remittances to the state and projects like that, they continue to disseminate that information.
So how does the next 3 to 6 months look for the chamber and look for businesses in the community?
Well, I think the vaccine news makes us all hopeful. It's a huge step in the right direction. It's going to take a long time to distribute and vaccinate the population. It's going to take forever. It's going to seem like. So I don't think we're going to be, 3 to 6 months. I don't think we're going to be operating as, we would like to be as normal. I see us going through the first quarter of next year, still under very, very strict orders. Maybe second quarter loosening those up a little bit. Third quarter maybe a little bit looser, and hopefully by the end of the year, 2021. That we are back to a new normal. I'm not sure what that new normal is. It's not going to be the same as the old normal, though.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to mention as far as the chamber or anything else that you want to bring forward as information?
Well, I appreciate the comment that you made earlier to make sure that everyone watching knows that we are not part of the city. Our goal is to work with the city. One of our priorities has always been we like to solve a problem before it gets to the city council. So we work with city staff very closely. We do not get government funding. So we rely on the business community to pay voluntary dues to support us. And we also used to hold a lot of events that were community based, as well as business owners would attend, that would generate a lot of revenue for us. And obviously we cannot do that anymore. So if you are a business in Oxnard and you're not a member of the chamber, we certainly invite you to join us. And if you are a member, thank you, thank you, thank you. And please continue to keep that membership, because we want to keep providing services to make sure that we have a strong business community. Again, back to the quality of life issue, so we can provide great jobs for our residents.
Thank you, Nancy, for the information and for engaging me in this conversation about the chambers, about how you ended up here in the chamber's top position, and even the challenges that you guys had to take on as a chamber to cut half of your guys' staff in order to continue to operate and supporting businesses. And really, one of the comments that you made was searching out those pro-business candidates, which I completely agree with you on, because if we don't have those pro-business candidates or elected officials, that hurts businesses, and businesses are jobs. And without jobs, people can't have housing. Without housing, they're all on the streets. So I appreciate everything that you do, your staff, the chamber, in supporting these businesses. And especially right now, making sure that they have the most updated information that comes out from the state and the county, so that many of our businesses can kind of operate under these very difficult times. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nancy Lindholm, the CEO, President of the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce. Please visit their website, oxnardchamber.org. Did I get that right? Yes.
Yes, you did.
oxnardchamber.org. There you can learn about the services that they offer to become a member, and really try to find ways to be able to support them and other local businesses in the community. And we will continue to monitor the governor's ordinance that just recently came out, and we'll also be monitoring the county as to what direction they will be taking as we're moving forward in the months to come. Anything else you would like to add, Nancy?
Just want to thank you for having me on the show, Daniel. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Nancy.
Okay. All righty. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, please be sure to join us next week as we have Yadi Valencia Fernandez join us. As you heard, we are dealing with some very stressful and difficult times, and that could be stressful. So we're going to be speaking with her on how we can manage those stress during these difficult times, and how we continue to deal with this new norm. So be sure to join us next week as we have Yadi Fernandez Valencia join us on how to deal with stress management, depression, and so much more for a good mental and human health. That's right here on Oxnard Live at 4 p.m. with me, your host, Daniel Chavez Jr. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Thank you to Nancy Lindholm, the CEO, President of the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce, and have a great night.